Welcome to Xhibition, an Xbox podcast, episode number 55. My name is Samuel Adams, and this is a weekly show dedicated entirely to the world of Xbox, bringing you everything you need to know to keep yourself in the loop. So if you're new to the show, you enjoy what you see or what you hear, hit that subscribe button on youtube.com/jampacksam, add the show to your podcast feed of choice, and get it delivered right to you each and every Sunday at normally 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Of course, today's show is understandably running out a bit later than normal because of the Xbox and Bethesda showcase that just wrapped up a couple of moments ago. Every single year, gamers around the world take time to gather at Summer Game Fest and celebrate the next 12 months of video games. And often that next 12 months can turn into 24 or 36 or 40. Who knows how long it'll take for these games to come out, but regardless, we get a look at what the future has in store. And let me tell you, my friends, this year, the future is looking very, very good. This show is going to be dedicated mostly to the Xbox and Bethesda game showcase that just wrapped up a few moments ago. We have tons of gameplay to discuss, and on top of that, a lot of big announcements, including some third-party partnerships that I don't think anybody was really expecting to see. Now, I will say, before going into this episode of my show, if you have not watched the showcase, I highly recommend you go check it out in full, or alternatively, you check out some coverage that gives you a play-by-play breakdown of everything that was announced, because I will not be hitting every single announcement. It was a 95-minute show, so with that in mind, I think that I'll spare you some of the details, and instead, I'm going to be hitting some of the announcements that really caught my eye, the big kahunas, if you will. I think that's a better use of my time here on the podcast, because I'm sure that much like my feed, yours is filled with podcasters doing in-depth analyses and things like that. I'm just here to talk about what I really enjoyed from the show. That's what the show's all about for me here today. So, hey, take it or leave it. Enjoy if you do so choose. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let's start off today's conversation by talking about the games, because that's what was shown off during this Xbox and Bethesda game showcase. We've seen Xbox events in the past, specifically talking about those old E3s, where it was a lot of conversation. You had developer interviews that were held on stage in a conversational kind of way that didn't really provide a lot of value for the players that were there to learn more about the games they wanted to play. Sure, if you're a hardcore fan, that had some value to you, but the majority of people just want to be able to see the games they're going to be playing. And that's exactly what we got this year. So throughout the show, I had a notepad up on my computer, and I was taking notes of the games that were mentioned and how many of these were coming to Game Pass. And the overwhelming majority of these games are going to be coming to Game Pass on day one. Now, when it comes to the games that caught my eye, all of them were coming to Game Pass except for Diablo IV, which very well could also come to Game Pass depending on the Activision Blizzard situation and the acquisition coming from Microsoft. So, to set the tone, let's talk a bit about the games that were discussed. We had Redfall, Silksong, A Plague Tale Requiem, Forza Motorsport, Overwatch 2, which is going free to play. We'll talk about that more in a while. Forza Horizon 5 is getting a Hot Wheels expansion. Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn looks phenomenal. Scorn got a bit of a highlight. Lightyear Frontier, As Dusk Falls, Naraka Blade Point, which is now coming to Game Pass, Diablo IV, Wolong Final Dynasty, Persona 3, 4, and 5, and a new Kojima game on top of that, Starfield. Now that's just a handful out of the notes that I have right here. If that doesn't set the tone for what Xbox has coming in the next few years, I don't know what else to tell you. It is going to be a season of bangers, my friends. I absolutely cannot wait. Now, we're going to be diving into a couple of these more in depth, but I highly encourage you, once again, if you have not had the chance to do so, sit down, grab some popcorn, check out this showcase, because if you did not see it, you are missing out. You should totally dig in. We'll talk about games more specifically in a moment. I want to talk about this Riot Games partnership that was announced during the show, and this is something that came totally out of left field, but this is the best value proposition I've seen to date for PC Game Pass players. And we'll talk about what that means more in a moment, but at face value, this new partnership gives you access to a huge catalog of content for the free-to-play games that Riot Games has become famous for. We're talking, as this graphic says, League of Legends, League of Legends Wild Rift, Legends of Runeterra, Teamfight Tactics, and Valorant. Now, for those that aren't familiar with Riot Games, these games are massive. Specifically, League of Legends is absolutely monumental. Valorant has made a pretty big splash in the competitive shooter PC community, kind of that CS:GO feel for those that haven't had a chance to check out gameplay or play themselves. But when you get into these games, you have some free options in terms of operators, champions, whatever you want to call them, and then you might have to spend a couple of bucks to unlock something, etc., etc. That's how the cookie crumbles. That's how the companies make their cash, which has never been a problem for me because I don't mind spending 10 bucks to unlock a character on a game that I've already put 40 hours in. That seems fair to me. But if you have Game Pass, you now have a ton of content for all of these games in the Riot Games collection. We are talking League of Legends on PC getting all champions unlocked along with the same treatment on League of Legends Wild Rift. Additionally, Legends of Runeterra on PC and mobile has a foundation set unlocked, and Teamfight Tactics has select Little Legends unlocked as well. Valorant on PC also has all agents unlocked, which I would consider to be the biggest deal. That gives you 18 agents and access to all new agents on day one. There are also some bonus experience across all titles that will be received as well. But boy, this is a big deal, and I think this is a big deal for me because you see Microsoft trying to make a small incremental shift here and there to change how they market themselves to the PC audience. In my mind, what Microsoft wants in the PC space is to become the PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live of the PC world, where once you start gaming on PC, it's almost like you need to have Game Pass for PC to really get the most out of your gameplay experience. And when it comes to PC gaming, League of Legends and Valorant in particular are two that are staples in that community, at least from my perspective. I watch a lot of Valorant. I watch some Valorant streamers. League of Legends, of course, is a huge competitive esport in and of itself, but it's also a very popular free-to-play game on PC. And so to be able to have a value that you give to players of these games and say, hey, you get all of these games as well from the Microsoft library and third parties, but hey, you also get everything you need to really enjoy these games to the fullest potential. That's a pretty big deal. So, really impressed with this partnership here. And again, as Microsoft builds out this Xbox experience they're trying to create across console, cloud, and PC, and TVs as well, which we'll talk about, you really have to bring the money and give experiences to people that they want to have. On console, that's day one releases. On cloud, that's streaming stably from anywhere. On PC, that's meeting them where they are and giving them access to content that may otherwise be restricted. And on top of that, also those day one releases and some PC exclusives as well. So Microsoft really has to hit a lot of different marks with these different communities that are a shared community, but have different requirements that others within the console space may not have in comparison to people on PC or mobile versus otherwise. So very cool to see them really investing heavily in the PC space, and I think it's going to pay dividends in the long run, especially depending on where this partnership with Riot Games goes. Starfield closed out today's Xbox showcase, and it absolutely stole the show in my opinion, because it was unlike anything that I had really expected it to be. And I was chatting with a friend during the show, and I said, oh, they just made No Man's Sky, which you'll see more in a moment as we get into gameplay. But as the trailer goes on, and by trailer, I do mean literally tons of gameplay, like a good chunk of gameplay, you start to see that they've really taken the best of games like No Man's Sky, like I mentioned, and combined that with some Fallout. And then they also brought in some Elite Dangerous as well. And so you have this giant world that's been created that effectively blends together multiple genres that have become popular over the years to create something that is this exploratory experience that is, quite frankly, unlike anything that we've really seen bundled into one package. We've seen pieces of Starfield independently, but nothing like this has really come out as a single package and a huge experience. Now, on top of that, the actual scale of the game is absolutely monumental. I mean, we are talking about, and this is what Todd Howard said, 100 systems. We're talking about planetary systems with a total of thousands of planets to explore. I was talking, as I said, to a friend, 30 minutes per planet, a minimum of 1,000 planets. You're looking at 500 hours in this game to see everything that's available for you to see. And when I say see, I mean literally just walking past it. That doesn't include really getting into the nitty gritty. Now, what differentiates Starfield for me so far, and this could very well change, but when it comes to a game like No Man's Sky from Hello Games, that is a technological marvel in that it randomly generates these planets for you to go explore. So the random generation has improved over time, but the issue with randomly generated stuff that's created by AI is that there are few storytelling elements that are intentional. And it's that intentionality that gives a role-playing game the level of depth that really makes it worth exploring for me. Being able to tell stories with set pieces. You know, let's say that there's a planet on the very edge of the galaxy and you land on it and there's an abandoned outpost, and in it you see the skeletons of people, and you find a logbook that talks about how they were the first frontiersmen to really venture out this far into the universe, and they succumbed to some kind of alien illness or something like that. Those are the stories that I want to see. And as you can see here through the gameplay that we're watching, immediately you see this and you're like, okay, so that's a mud crab from Fallout 4. This is just a Fallout 4 skin, effectively. And that's where I was at this point in the presentation. But jumping through, looking to the future, you start to see a lot more, okay? You start to see some lockpicking going on. You start to see some combat here. As you can see, an example of combat. Overall, does not look to be that improved as compared to Fallout 4. But overall, still gets the job done. I don't think I would expect anything more from a game like No Man's Sky, for instance, which I do think this game will end up being compared to, at least to some capacity, depending on how you look at it. So going ahead in the gameplay, let's talk about these facial animations. So in terms of story, the entire game is built around this idea of exploring what's in space. There's this organization that is trying to really get out there and learn more about the world and the universe. And I love that concept of just really finding out what's out there. So the stories that are being told are going to be incredibly interesting, and they normally are in the world of Bethesda and the worlds they create. But these facial expressions are what I really want to highlight here. Normally, there is such a level of Bethesda jank that it takes you almost entirely out of the experience. And that's still marginally present in the facial animations so far, but they look so much better than any previous Bethesda game, and it truly does show. And I think it's going to show in terms of the way that it really does capture players, the way that you feel like you're a part of the world. I want to be fully immersed in this, and I want this to be space cyberpunk without the horrible launch issues. That's kind of what I would love to see from Starfield. As with character customization, you can really deeply customize your entire ship and make it your own, which is exactly what players really want from a game from Bethesda. They want to build their own characters, build their own ships, create their own adventure, and on top of that, this combat looks wonderful. I was deeply impressed by this space combat, and I cannot wait to get my hands on this as well. But with all of these elements coming together, the exploratory nature of a No Man's Sky, the combat of like a Star Wars Squadrons or an Elite Dangerous, on top of that, the scale of this game that we're exploring, thousands of planets, Starfield is lining up to actually deliver on the anticipation. And I think that I'm hesitant to say that because things could very well change. And of course, this is gameplay, but it is a trailer that has been edited. So who knows how good this game will actually be when it launches. But judging by what I'm seeing so far, Starfield very well could be the best Bethesda game that we have ever seen. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, truly, this could be blowing Skyrim out of the water. This could be blowing Fallout 3 out of the water. There are so many elements of this that are lining up well, and I'm very much so looking forward to seeing this one when it lands in 2023. For fans of Forza Motorsport, I have some wonderful news. The next game in the franchise is coming out in 2023. Now, this is not going to be Forza Motorsport 8. This is just straight up Forza Motorsport. Seems like kind of a reboot, if you will, of the naming system there. Could change in the future, though. But what you need to know is that the game looks and plays better than it's ever played before. They have said they have improved their physics by 48 times as compared to the last game, so you should be looking forward to some pretty realistic races here. Now, something I do want to drive home is that Forza Motorsport is different than Forza Horizon. For those that aren't familiar, Motorsport is going to be more like Gran Turismo as compared to Horizon, which is going to be more akin to like a Metal Storm, that kind of thing, where it is a very arcadey style approach. So if you are a fan of arcade style racing, you might not be a huge fan of Forza Motorsport. But you don't really have to worry that much if you are a Game Pass subscriber, because this one is coming day one to Xbox Game Pass in spring of 2023. Forza Horizon 5 is getting some additional content, and I think this is going to be a welcome expansion for those that are longtime fans of the franchise. This is a continuation of the partnership that we saw in Forza Horizon 4, and that is, of course, Forza Horizon 5 Hot Wheels. Now, this is something that I think a lot of people kind of expected to see, and of course, we did see a couple of leaks earlier in the week that discussed this being the potential first expansion, but I understand people that don't want this, because I also like the realistic island style expansions where you can have new areas to explore. But at the same time, I have this over-the-top kind of anticipation, or this over-the-top kind of drive to do stuff like you're seeing here in the trailer, where you're flying into the sky on this Hot Wheels track and you're defying gravity depending on what kind of road you're going on. There's something about that that is incredibly fun, and seeing these jumps back onto the Hot Wheels tracks and seeing gravity be completely pointless, that's the kind of thing that I like to see, and I think it adds something new to the mix that may be missing from a traditional kind of expansion. Now, I will say this looks to be much more expansive, no pun intended, as compared to the Forza Horizon 4 Hot Wheels expansion, so I look forward to seeing more about this, and again, coming July 19th, 2022, very soon in the overall grand scheme of things, so I'm looking forward to digging more in there. If you are a fan of Forza, you have a lot to look forward to, whether it's through Forza Motorsport 7 or Forza Horizon 5. Racing fans have a great 12 months coming up. For fans of Persona, it's a very big year. The 25th anniversary of the franchise is underway, and Atlas is celebrating by bringing 3 classics from the series to Xbox. We are talking about Persona 3 Portable, Persona 4 Golden, and Persona 5 Royal, all coming to Xbox, and on top of that, all coming to Game Pass. Now, this is kind of a tiered rollout in the same way that we saw the Yakuza games come to Game Pass, where you do start off on October the 21st with Persona 5 Royal, and then more release dates will be announced later for the following games as well. But overall, fantastic to see. This is not really my cup of tea. I'll probably dive into Persona 5 specifically, just because it's such a big deal and it's made a big splash in the past few years. But this is a big deal because Persona is traditionally a PlayStation-centric franchise. And so for it to break that mold and actually come to Xbox is a very big deal. And I think it shows that Xbox is really expanding its international footprint. And they do require more of this kind of game. We can't just be Halo. We can't just be Forza. We've really got to be the one-stop shop for everything. And I think this is a great step in the right direction. So the big question here is, when Persona 6 comes out, where does that land and who gets it first, if anybody gets it first, or is it a rollout across all platforms, which is what I would love to see? Only time will tell, but fantastic deal here for Game Pass subscribers that want to dive in, or for longtime Persona fans as well. Over the last week, I went on vacation, and while on vacation, I also came down with COVID. That was fun, but my girlfriend also got COVID as well, so we've been helping each other through that experience, and while we've been down and out, we thought, hey, let's play some Diablo Immortal. So we have become addicted to this game, and in the meantime, I've also started playing Diablo 3, because the Ultimate Evil Edition is on sale right now for $20 on Xbox. I thought, hey, why not? I'm enjoying Immortal, and I'm falling in love with that game as well. I'm a level 30 Crusader right now, and I've got a fantastic build going. But over the past week, I've become incredibly big into Diablo, and so this trailer really got me going because I love the tone of the game. I love what I'm seeing from Diablo 4, and this is really the first gameplay we are seeing in any kind of in-depth, realistic way. And again, this is all captured on Xbox Series X, and it looks wonderful, much darker in tone, I think, than Diablo 3. And it also looks much more realistic to me. The graphics are phenomenal. And I'm looking forward to digging in on day one. This is not going to be a Game Pass game as of right now, but not every game has to be. This is something that I would be buying either way, and on top of that, you can play however you want. There's cross-play between PC and console. On top of that, there's also couch co-op, which is what my girlfriend and I do. And so being able to just dig in, no matter how or where you play, I think is a fantastic benefit. Now, the big question is, how late in 2023 is this coming out? Are we talking about holiday? And if so, that will be pretty far after the Activision Blizzard acquisition closes, assuming all goes well. So, could this game eventually come to Game Pass? The question still stands. We'll see what happens. I think that it will at some point in the future. I'm sure contracts are being negotiated right now, etc. But you could be seeing this one launch into Game Pass, and this could be a fantastic announcement for 2023. But it really is hitting all of the marks. I'm loving the skills, the abilities, the combat. It all just hits exactly where it needs to hit. And so if you're a fan of Diablo, I think Diablo 4 is really shaping up to be wonderful. And if you haven't already, Diablo Immortal is a controversial game right now because the microtransactions are understandably being criticized by the community. For me, as somebody who just logs in to do some quests and grind some dailies, I don't feel like it's too bad personally. But if you have not played Diablo 3, why don't you? I mean, it's $20 right now on the Xbox Marketplace for tons of content. We're talking about the base game, the expansions, and the Necromancer pack. Go ahead and give it a shot, see if you like it. But for fans of action RPGs, this one is certainly shaping up to be a winner for you. Let's continue talking about some Blizzard games because Overwatch 2 got some very big news during the Xbox and Bethesda showcase. No, it's not an exclusive. No, it's not coming to Game Pass. Instead, it's going free to play. Now, this is a game that I've been very, very critical of because until this point, there hasn't been, for me, a reason to buy this game. The heroes are largely the same. There are returning maps once again. Some have gone from day to night, but it's still the same exact experience. I think there is some balance change coming, but it still is Overwatch. It still doesn't feel like it really warranted 60 or 70 of my hard-earned dollars for me to get in and experience. With this game going free to play, all of that's out the window because not only does this give me incentive to actually dive in and play the game when it comes out this October, but it also gives my friends incentive to come play. Even those that don't have Game Pass, we just dive in and play some Overwatch. Now the question is, monetization. Battle Pass? More than likely. Will there be Game Pass perks in the same way that we saw Riot Games announce some benefits, especially after the Activision Blizzard acquisition? Very well could be. But right now, this game now has a reason for me to play it. It has a reason for me to be excited because while I don't have Overwatch on Xbox right now and I don't plan on buying it, Overwatch 2, going free to play, going to be everywhere. So I'll probably play a little bit on PC, a little bit on Xbox. We'll see what else happens in the future. But very excited for this one now because it is officially going free to play. And I don't mind, as I said earlier, buying a battle pass for a game that I'm going to dump 40 or 50 hours into. And I did love me some Overwatch back when it launched in 2016. So 2 is certainly going to be having my attention later this year. This piece of news is not only one of the biggest pieces from today's show, but potentially could be one of the biggest news stories of the entire year. Hideo Kojima is officially partnering with Xbox to create, quote, a game I have always wanted to make, end quote. This report comes from IGN's Matt Kim, who writes, in a new partnership announcement, Kojima says that they are in the early stages of a new concept that will incorporate Microsoft's cutting-edge technology and change in the industry trends in some capacity. Quote, it's a completely new game that no one has ever experienced or seen before. I've waited very long for the day when I could finally start to create it, Kojima said. While details are sparse, Kojima says this never-before-seen concept will be a challenge for him to make. Could this be another new genre for Kojima following stealth action horror and the strand of Death Stranding? Kojima's new partnership was part of the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase, as we all know, but that's pretty much where the story ends. So, speculating here, I have no idea what's in that man's brain right there. You see this brain right here? I'm gonna zoom in on it. You see that? I don't know what's in there. There's craziness in there, and the best kind of craziness. Death Stranding was phenomenal. I don't own a PlayStation anymore. Haven't had one in a year and a half. Still got my copy of Death Stranding for whenever I get a PS5 eventually. You bet your ass I'm going to play it again. So, with that in mind, I'm excited to see what this guy comes up with in this partnership with Xbox and how the technology that Microsoft has is used to his potential and his benefit. When it comes to release dates, my heart says 2026. I think that sounds kind of realistic. We'll see if it comes sooner than that, but very interesting to see that Kojima is now partnering with Xbox. And the big question is, what does this mean for the relationship with PlayStation? That's just a small selection of what was shown off today. I haven't had time to talk about Redfall, which got some gameplay. Hollow Knight Silksong is coming to Game Pass. Scorn looks disgusting, but it's beautiful. A Plague Tale Requiem looks like a phenomenal adventure coming up. We'll talk about all of that and more later this week. I'm going to be on Project X Talk, an Xbox podcast, as well as Playconomics, which digs into the business side behind gaming. Very excited to have those conversations later in the week. But to round out today's show, I did want to dig into Xbox building the gaming platform for the next 20 years. This is a new blog post from Will Tuttle, Xbox Wire editor-in-chief, who gives us a confirmation that Samsung is going to be the TV partner for Xbox Cloud Gaming, and also there are some more bells and whistles coming for players in the cloud and on Windows 11 as well. So digging into the TV news, starting on June 30th, anybody on Samsung 2022 smart TVs will be able to go into the Samsung Gaming Hub and connect their Microsoft account and a Bluetooth controller and immediately gain access to the Game Pass Ultimate library if they are subscribed, as well as Fortnite without a subscription immediately. No console, no nothing. You just jump in and play. That's amazing. Now, on top of that, Xbox Cloud Gaming is also expanding to Argentina and New Zealand. Phenomenal stuff. Get more people in there. Expand that cloud gaming even further. So between those two announcements, cloud gaming is already poised to make a bigger splash in 2022 than ever before. Looking back over the last month, you had the Fortnite news of no subscription required. Dive in on any device and play that game. That's there with a new season out right now. Perfect opportunity to check that out and use cloud gaming to your advantage. Now there's this TV partnership, and on top of that, more people internationally can play Xbox Cloud Gaming. It's a win-win all around. Now on top of that, Microsoft Edge is getting some cloud gaming enhancements as well as general players on Windows 11. So on Windows 11, the Game Pass widget is going to allow players to browse and discover games from Game Pass and jump back into their recently played titles. On top of that, controller bar also features some recent games and shortcuts that make navigation easier. A new HDR calibration app makes your display look better, and optimizations for windowed games are on the way. Now, Microsoft Edge is evolving to meet gamers' needs, and so it's getting a new personalized gaming homepage featuring news, game guides, live streams, game highlights, tournaments, upcoming and newly released games, and the Xbox Cloud Gaming library right at your fingertips. Then, when it comes to gameplay, there's a built-in clarity boost that makes games look sharper from the cloud when playing in Microsoft Edge, and there is a new games menu in Edge that offers access to free popular games like Solitaire, Asteroids, etc. Then the efficiency mode helps improve gaming performance on Windows 10 and 11 to help keep games running fast by automatically reducing browser resource usage when a PC game is launched. So overall, very impressive enhancements there. And to break those down a bit more, if you are a Game Pass subscriber or you game in Windows on PC, your experience is getting better. If you use Edge and you play cloud games, your experience is getting better. So at the end of the day, all of these are quality of life improvements that make gaming on Windows better no matter how you're doing it. Now, on top of that, they also write, "We're excited to share that later this year, it's our intent to roll out the ability for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members to play from the cloud select games they already own or have purchased outside of the Xbox Game Pass library." We're also revealing the first details of Project Moorcroft, a program that brings the fun and discovery of playing new curated demos of upcoming games to our Xbox Game Pass members. This program is going to become out within the next year, focusing on providing independent developers more opportunities to build excitement for their games, and participating developers will be able to see analytics around how their demos perform. So 2 key notes here. First and foremost, being able to play games outside of the Game Pass library through the cloud is a game changer, because it would be ideal to see every game in my Xbox library streamable. That's something that just makes sense to me. So to be able to play Diablo III on my phone is the penultimate example of what I would love to see right now through Xbox Cloud Gaming, especially looking at backward compatibility. Imagine playing original Xbox games on your phone. That'd be sick. So hopefully that will continue to evolve. Very cool to see that starting later this year. On top of that, the Project Moorcroft thing is pretty much, in my opinion, a direct response to how Sony is offering demos through PlayStation Plus, which has recently been revamped. Now, the interesting skew here is that the focus is going to be on independent developers rather than trying first-party games, because, again, all first-party games from Microsoft come to Game Pass on day one anyway. So being able to highlight indie developers is a great way to also add some value to Game Pass, so you get more bang for your buck, but you also get to highlight some indies that may or may not be able to get the highlight that they deserve to make their game pop. So I like that it's becoming more competitive out here. I think PlayStation Plus is adding a bit of heat to the fire, and Microsoft is adding more value than ever before. So no matter how you look at this, you're winning. PlayStation players are winning because Game Pass is pushing PlayStation. Xbox players are winning because of all of the amazing games coming to Game Pass, and on top of that, the new features that are coming as well for cloud and for the general gaming experience on console, cloud, and on PC. But no matter where you play, if you need a custom controller, there are new Xbox Design Lab options, including soft pink, soft orange, soft green, and soft purple, as well as various camo styles for you to use. And you can now use them in 11 new countries as well if you do want to design your own Xbox Design Lab controller. Fantastic blog post here, and again, it really did kind of set the mood, because this was all pretty massive news before the show was even held. So, in short, at the end of the day, Xbox is very actively preparing for the next 20 years of gaming, and when it comes to the conversation around where and how you play your games, ultimately it's a personal decision of where you enjoy spending your time and your money. For me, and the bang for my buck, and the games that interest me, Xbox continues to put out some bangers, and let me tell you, as of right now, I'm not going anywhere. Now that it's all said and done and the dust has settled, I'm looking back on the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, and I'm going to give it a B+. That's pretty much where I'm sitting right now, because we got looks at a ton of phenomenal games coming to Xbox over the next year. We saw a deep look at Starfield, and on top of that, we saw continuing support for games that we all know and love. Forza Horizon 5, for instance, a new Forza Motorsport, Grounded, is coming out in its full 1.0 release. Tons of good news like that. However, we did not see Hellblade 2, which I thought was going to be launching later this year. Very well could still, but I didn't see it there. I didn't see Avowed either. There are some big games that are missing from this lineup that I would love to see or have seen, and I just simply did not see them. So with that being said and taken into account, I think that there does need to be a deduction for not having updates on some games we've been waiting for quite some time, but now I'm very much so looking forward to an entirely new slate of games that I would never have had on the radar, and you're seeing some of them right here through this trailer. Sea of Thieves, again, the gift that keeps on giving. But overall, I hope you guys enjoyed today's Xbox podcast, and if you did enjoy today's exhibition, drop me a like down below on YouTube, or if you're on podcast feeds, be sure to drop a rating, and if you're new here and you enjoy the show, hit that subscribe button and keep coming back for more. But thanks for joining me in this discussion, and I'll talk to you soon. And remember, keep on playing.